Whoop. All right, we're good to go.
There's the PAX West.
And new packs.
That's what I said.
All right.
Stupid Kineticon.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'll pass the baton after this year.
I don't want to go to Kineticon.
The thing is, I like going to Connecticut. I enjoy it.
I like the con. I just don't want to go to Connecticut.
No.
I want to like just hang out, board game it up.
Well, if we weren't staff anymore, we could go and just play games.
It's
and
not
hang out.
worth. But the thing is, I don't want to take the trip and pay the money.
It's not that expensive. It's Connecticut. All right. Anyway,
I don't want to buy the ticket.
You think I'd buy a ticket? Be a panelist. All right. It's Thursday, May 25th, 2017. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. All right, give me a second. Audition's doing something weird. I think Audition crashed.
Great.
Oh, no. It survived. That was weird.
The Marantz doesn't look very on.
I just turned it off.
It's
It's Thursday,
Why?
May. Because I'm gonna start it again when I start recording again. Because I gotta make. I don't trust Audition 100%. I think there's an update recently. Whoop. All right, let's try this again. Whoop woo. Ooh. It's Thursday, May 25th, 2017. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, in another episode of I Can't Believe We Didn't Talk About This Before, talking about amusement parks.
I'm pretty sure we talked about this.
To show me the episode. Find it. All right, do one quick sanity check there because there was trouble. It's Thursday, May 25th, 2017. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this... Okay, we're good. Save, and I think there's some people watching.
Sad people.
There's 3 people watching. I got a message in the last one. As soon as you said that, they were like, I'm actually really not sad at all. I'm pretty happy.
Why are you spending your time watching Geek Nights if you're feeling good?
Remember, we have multiple people who pointedly watch this show because it happens to be when they're pooping. You got your tablet. I mean, if you're in the
pooping,
bathroom, you got a tablet or a
Bust
phone.
out some Race to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And or Hiroshima Hex. And or there's a new Magikarp candy box.
Oh, that Magikarp candy. I'm gonna Tuesday. We should talk about that.
I played it for 5 minutes. I got to level 2 and then deleted it. Nope.
Yep.
Let's not go down this road.
You went further down the Sunfish road than I did.
I played it. Yeah, this is better than the Sunfish. It's basically Neko Atsume of
No,
Magikarp.
better than the Sunfish is bad because the Sunfish was pretty good.
Yeah, the Magikarp one is basically Neko Atsume level, but Magikarp.
See, I didn't play the Neko Atsume. I avoided it, so maybe.
It's basically effectively the exact same game as Neko.
So maybe I'll do that.
Only with Magikarp.
All right. Oh, do I have an opening bid other than it is raining and it won't stop raining? I was in Hong Kong. I almost went to Hong Kong Disney, but I didn't.
You were gonna go to Hong Kong Disney before you went to cool.
It's right there.
Shady electronic shops.
Well, because it's on
the shady electronic shop for me is better than Disney World.
You know why I thought about going to Hong Kong Disney? Because it's on the train to the airport. Like, it just take a stop. You're there.
I mean, that's better for the main bit.
Yeah. Opening bit. Opening bit. What am I even doing? Oh, yeah, I got one.
Mm-hmm.
So tonight, I don't care about hockey on a visceral level anymore because no team I care about is in contention for the cup. So
I want Pittsburgh to lose.
I do want Pittsburgh to lose. Tonight's an important game because the Senators and Pittsburgh, it's going to be a game 7. One of them is going to go on to fight the Preds.
Mm-hmm.
The other one's going to go home.
That's right.
And really don't want a Pennsylvania team to ever win the Stanley Cup again if we can avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
Same with New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Same with all but one New York team.
Mm-hmm.
But if the Sabres won, it'd be funny, I guess.
No, whatever. They could win. I don't
Yeah.
know.
But I think I'm rooting for the Preds, and I'm hoping to see Predators Senators. And because neither one of them is my
The
team.
NHL is not hoping for that. Their
Nope.
their ratings will be.
But if it comes to that, I'm hoping it goes into Game 7, and I'm hoping Game 7 has like 20 overtimes because overtime hockey is one of the most stressful things in the world to watch if you care about the outcome of the game, and it's one of the best things in the world to watch if you don't give a shit. As long as you care about hockey in general, at least, I guess. No, even if you don't care, even if you don't even know what's going on, overtime Game 7 hockey is exciting even if you literally don't know what's happening. So, I got some news here. You got some news? It's Thursday. We can talk about whatever because it's the lounge.
Yeah, it's her mom. I had a sad news. So, way back in the college days, when we were in the A9 clubs, right? We listened to lots of J-pops and J-rocks and whatnot because that was the style of the times, right? And especially like in the summer, we would tend to play that music more often because it wasn't really the greatest winter music, even though winter was most of what we experienced in college because we were in Rochester.
Well, that was also, in that era, like, I became a weeb when I was in 4th grade. So I was already, like, I came to RIT already, like, mostly listening to, like, J-pop.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how many people realize, but there's a person named Ayumi Hamasaki who's basically sort of like the Madonna of Japan.
Yep. Like I remember as a kid, I found I found Megumi Hashibara because she did a lot of anime music, and then at RIT I discovered Ayumi Hamasaki, and she rapidly became one of my favorite music performers on earth.
Right. And all
like
her
her
stuff
stuff.
is on Spotify, and there's lots of like Eurobeat remixes of her albums and stuff, and she has like tons of hits, and I think it's it's one of those names like every Japanese person will know who that is. Almost everyone, right?
Yep.
I guess someone who was just born wouldn't know. Right? This is like a super famous person who hasn't really done anything recently, right?
Or at least if she did, I didn't pay attention. Like I didn't notice.
Yeah, but like every, like, maybe like once or twice a year, every year, like I'm remembered that she exists, usually in the summer.
Yep.
And I go back in and I find some like a Euro mix album or something. I'm like, oh
Well,
yeah.
kind of like how with Megumi Hashibara, I remembered she existed because I was at Zenkai-Con and I did a panel on anime openers, and we had a song that she sang on it. So I was like, oh, right. She exists.
But anyway, but I like didn't know what she was up to recently until this news appeared in the news feeds, right? And because this news appeared, it linked out to all the other newses of what has happened to her, right? So the last I had heard from her was years ago. She married like some guy from like California or something, like some non-celebrity person. It's like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I kind of like it when like celebrity people like meet and marry non-celebrity people, because it seems more like a, I hope that they have like a genuine thing going on. You tend to see lots of like mega celebrity people like get married with each other and have like these weddings that at least appear, they might be legit, but they, usually appear that like they're just for show, right? And then they, divorce and get remarried like 20 times.
Yeah.
Just because it's, they're not like really, in a real relationship.
Well, you're under this pressure to like keep your circles in that same public sphere, so you sort of limit your dating pool to people who are like that.
But anyway, I heard, one of the newses I saw is that is no longer a thing, which was kind of sad. But the really sad news is that even though like she is a pop star and a singer, she appears to be losing her hearing, and she's not that old, right?
Now, apparently, that itself is not news.
No. What happened was a long time ago, actually, she had already been losing hearing in one ear, right? There was like an infection, I think, and but she was on tour, and rather than like take a break and get some medical attention, she's like, nope, show must go on, and ruined her ear, and now the other ear is being ruined, and it's like. We've had, Beethoven was deaf too, right?
Yep.
But it's like, I can't think of like someone who was a pop star, like such a huge one that then lost their hearing. Like,
well, it's extra sad in general whenever you see someone who is very good at a thing and a physical disability comes along and prevents them from doing the thing that they love. Like a hockey player who gets the, one too many concussions and has to retire early. Any of those situations are always sad.
Yep. So that's a thing.
Yep. In lighter news, so you know that we go to PAX South, and PAX South is a really good PAX. Like, if you have to pick one PAX and you can't afford to go to like PAX West, PAX South is way cheaper and nicer than PAX East.
Even if you live far away from PAX South, at least if you live in the United States, PAX South, even if you live in New York, PAX South will probably be cheaper than PAX East. Even if you live in like Massachusetts, PAX South
Flights
is probably
are shockingly cheap. Food costs nothing there. Hotels cost nothing.
The flights and hotel will probably cost less than the parking in Boston.
Yup.
Okay. And so you're going to, and then the ticket, you're going to be able to get it very easily.
Just buy it on the website at face value.
And it's like,
the hotel's like $120 a night.
Right. You're only going to be disappointed in like PAX South if you're one of those people who just wants to be in the expo hall playing AAA games. In which case, please stop going to PAX.
But from my perspective, the expo hall at PAX South is kind of better than the one in PAX East.
Yeah,
because it's
not-
less crowded,
it's less
and it's all the
crowded.
weird, like lower tier games of people who can't afford to be at a bigger PAX.
Yep.
Which is usually the more interesting games.
Mhm.
And,
And
also,
there is some AAA stuff. Remember the last PAX South, freaking Nintendo was there with the Switch
Yeah.
and shit, right? That you know.
and PAX South was, until PAX Unplugged got announced, the most tabletop in PAX
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of reasons. So it's great. But I think we talked about this. But when we went to San Antonio for PAX South, we got trapped there for extra days because of a blizzard back in the north. So we saw the fuck out of the Alamo.
Yeah,
and
there
we
is nothing. There is no tourist thing to do in San Antonio that we have not doed. So there's no reason for me to stay there any longer than necessary.
like we've said that we went to the Alamo and spent hours there because there was nothing else to do. So we read every piece of text everywhere in the entire facility. We sat in every little park all around it. So apparently the Alamo made it on this list as the worst tourist trap in Texas.
Who
but
made this list under what criteria?
I don't even know or care.
Is this just some BuzzFeed list, or is it like a real list?
WSOCTV.com, I guess.
So some local TV network?
Yeah, but that's not news, because the reality is the Alamo might be, in terms of expectation versus reality, the second worst tourist trap in all of America, in my actual
the
opinion.
Alamo is not. My expectations were low, but I can understand how people's expectations can be high because it's mythos.
You've seen that Davy Crockett
Right,
movie
the
that Disney put
mythos
out.
of the Alamo, the legend of the Alamo, is larger than the reality, which is it's just sort of this building. And
It's not. It's basically all that's left is a facade and some ruins, and it's like there's just strip malls next to it now.
It's half gift shop.
Yup.
You
The
know,
museum.
You'll
like,
probably have more fun if you're a tourist, like with a family, doing like the Ripley's Believe It or Not garbage across the street.
Yep. So I think the only tourist trap in all of America that has a bigger disparity between the average person's expectation and the reality of it is Mount Rushmore. Fuck Mount Rushmore.
What's wrong with Mount Rushmore?
Have you ever been to it?
No. Why? The thing with Mount Rushmore is
People treat it like it's something you should go see.
right. Is that
I've never been there. I know better.
It's in South Dakota, right?
It's in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
There is
it's like
nothing
you're
near it.
gonna go to this place in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Meaning that it is your destination.
There's nothing else there.
'Cause at least
and
if you
all
go to,
it
like-
is a bunch of faces on a rock. There's nothing to do there.
And the faces aren't even that great.
There's nothing around it. It's just
But think about this. If Mount Rushmore were like at some exit on your way to a real place,
it's
it
a
would-
5-minute check.
it'd
it
be
out.
worth going like, oh, look at that, and then keep going. But the fact that you would have to make your entire trip around going to it.
At least the Alamo, there's like you can walk around. It's like a museum, a tiny crappy one, but a museum.
Yeah.
There's something in there. Mount Rushmore is like, here's a bunch of rocks of 4 presidents' heads that someone made by dynamite, and here they are.
But San
you look at
Antonio-
them for a few minutes, and then you're good.
San Antonio is weird because I've been going there every year now. Like, I'm going to keep going to that PAX. I love it. But a lot of people, especially families, seem to go to San Antonio as a tourist destination.
Well, I mean, if you live nearby, right? If it's because think about it, there's a lot of land.
No, but these people are. It's not like they live nearby and they come in and like go out like day trips. These are people that come and stay for days in hotels and go around the city.
It's a 2-day town at most.
Tops. And that's if you
Tops.
go like out of your way to like the museums.
Right.
So the best part about this article is
Well,
not
the
the
other thing
article.
you have to understand, though, is that, and we're definitely going to talk about this in the main part of the show, is that, he who travels alone travels fastest.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, so we're 2 fast people, so even together, we're pretty fast.
Yep.
We're faster than a lot of one people's traveling, right? So, but when you're with a family traveling with the children,
Yep.
that's hella slow. So like a 2-day town.
Grandma doesn't want to go see the thing, and mom's picky about eating
Right.
at the restaurant, and the kids are tired.
The Alamo that takes you and me 1 hour to see everything is going to take a family all fucking day.
But San Antonio, the best part about this is not necessarily that, article. It's the FARC thread associated with it of people talking about Texas, San Antonio, and tourism.
Mhm.
Because basically everyone there has the exact same opinion we do. The Riverwalk's nice, and there's this Tower of America's thing I guess you can go on top of. And this comment here, yes, let's climb to the top of this building so we can see all the highways and Walmart parking lots.
That's what we saw.
Yep, the only interesting thing we saw up there at all, other than the awesome...
Was some mysterious industrial facility far away.
Yep, out in the desert. Couldn't even tell what it was. It was just some sort of factory-looking thing. We spent like 10 minutes like trying to figure out what it was, and that was cool. It's just San Antonio. People go to this place as a tourist destination, and I really just don't get it. And you can enjoy this FARC thread of people comparing...
Well, I mean, even people who come to New York, what do? They go look at the Statue of Liberty.
Yep.
What's the difference between the Statue of Liberty and Mount Rushmore? It was made by French people. And
but the Statue of Liberty is next to like 4,000 other things you can do of a similar caliber.
Right, but those tourists, they don't go to Ellis Island, right? You
Yep.
know, they're doing stupid shit.
They don't even go to Governor's Island. Like, they don't know.
They don't know the Governor's Island exists.
Yep.
Tourists.
Like, if you're a tourist, you come to New
They're
York.
just like, they just go, whoa, tall buildings, and then they buy stuff. They go
Some
to
of-
stores and
some of the
spend
coolest
money.
things you can do in New York are just like ride the East River Ferry. It costs like $1. Well, I guess it costs $2.75.
Well, I mean, if you're a tourist, you can ride the Circle Line. The Circle Line is actually not bad.
Yeah.
That's like that's the one of the few things you can do as a tourist that's not bad.
Yep. But
Like you can live in New York, and I can just go ride the Circle Line tomorrow. It's a good time.
someone pointed out you can see the Alamo from top there, which you can, and that really puts into stark contrast that the Alamo is not a thing anymore. Also, the last stand of the Alamo was a bunch of jerks who were basically fighting to preserve slavery. So, yeah. In some other news, I got a little bit of a geek bite. So I know I'm late to the party on this, but on my flight back from Hong Kong, I watched a bunch of episodes of Westworld.
Oh, the Yul Brynner TV show? That doesn't have Yul Brynner in it?
No. Well, yeah, you think of it as a Yul Brynner TV show, but it's Michael Crichton, really. You're just obsessed with Yul Brynner, which I can understand why. An attractive man. But Westworld, I actually watched a bunch of it. Now, Emily and I are watching it together to watch it all the way to the end. Season 1's done. It's only 10 episodes, so it's pretty short to watch. It's real good, and the best way I describe it is if you liked, say, Jurassic Park, or that episode of The Simpsons where they go to Itchy and Scratchy Land, both of those things are actually more referencing or based on Westworld than based on anything else you might think they're based on.
Who didn't know that?
Most people think that Itchy and Scratchy episode is based solely on Jurassic Park and have no idea that Michael Crichton also made Westworld.
Okay.
People don't know this stuff, I've discovered.
All right.
But Westworld, like the TV show,
Westworld is Jurassic Park with robots instead of dinosaurs.
except it gets a lot more into like cyberpunk Ghost in the Shell nonsense. And the new TV series, it takes the premise of Westworld and kind of minimizes the action thriller, like cowboy robots shooting each other. And it really focuses, it's just Ghost in the Shell. It's Ghost in the Shell nonsense, and it's really, really, really good insofar as I've seen the first third of it. So I'm going to watch the rest
you
of
said
it.
it's 10 episodes. You only seen 3?
Yeah.
But you're on a flight from Hong Kong. That's enough time to watch like 30.
Because I also, so that flight to Hong Kong, from Hong Kong, I slept for half of it.
Okay.
And the other half, I mostly went around collecting bits to upgrade the Hylian clothing all the way to the max. And went around collecting things. I basically got my 100 ancient arrows. Turned out I only needed like 10 to be Ganon.
Sure.
So, yeah, I was not just watching Westworld. And in fact, I was watching the 4th episode, and then the flight was about to land, so I didn't see the end of that episode. But it's real good. And if you're into existential Turing test, like what does it mean to be conscious, cyberpunk nonsense, it's real good, but it is real violent and real disturbing.
I mean, the original Westworld movie was disturbing.
Yeah, but in a more, because of the special effects capabilities of the day, it's a little more over the top.
So it's Ichi the Killer disturbing?
This one is more, Ichi the Killer, like the main part of its violence was that the camera wouldn't cut away, and you'd see like 3 more seconds of that knife cutting across before it snapped back. Westworld is very hyper-realistic violence.
I heard something about someone was like gonna like remaster Ichi the Killer, like HD Ichi the Killer or something.
I don't know if I really want to see that, because Ichi the Killer, like, I like that movie.
What?
I mean, in a sense, much like
The only thing good about that movie is that it's one of those movies where you can watch it when it's super late at night and like you're really really tired, and it's got that sort of nighttime mood, sort of that same mood as Space Ghost has when you watch it at like 2 a.m. It's like,
but it's much like Apocalypse Zero. It's one of those media experiences where it may not necessarily be good, and I may have been disturbed by it, but I remember it. And it was an experience that I'm glad I had, even if I don't necessarily want to replicate that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Westworld has moments that approach that level of violence. But unlike Each of the Killer, they are coupled with actual emotions and characters and plots you care about, as
And
opposed
not
to
something that makes no sense.
Yeah. I mean, the hypnotist, like Ichi the Killer really does not end the way you probably all think it does.
No.
Because all those people at Otakon who walked out before the end, they didn't get to see that muscle hypnotist moment, which is, I think that might be in my top 5 of scenes in movies I've ever seen.
What?
Because I did not know how to react to what was happening on screen at that moment in that movie.
That doesn't make it top 5. That just makes it.
I think it's in my top 5, though.
Top 5 of things I didn't know how to react to. Sure.
Yeah. It made me sit up and go, wait, what's this movie about again? What's going on here?
A little bit of the ultra violence.
But yeah, Westworld is super good so far as I've seen, and it's only 10 episodes, so you might as well just watch it. And it's real easy to see it, whether or not you pay for it. Just saying. Got any other news, or is that it?
We're good.
Then I guess it's time for me to save this.
What was my thing of the day?
Your thing of the day was...
That's dinosaurs?
Yep.
Meanwhile, we talked about like 3 things that have to do with amusement parks.
Yeah.
And then we talked about Jurassic Park, and now we're talking about dinosaurs.
I mean, we've got a theme now.
Mm-hmm.
Things of the day. So as you know, another thing I've watched that Scott doesn't watch is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which kind of scratches the itch that Seinfeld would scratch, except Seinfeld does not largely live up to modern comedic sensibilities. Seinfeld was more revolutionary for its time, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend people go back and watch it. It's Always Sunny it kind of scratches that itch now, and I really like it. I'm not going to review it right now, but my thing of the day is a supercut of all the intros to all the episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Because the intros to these episodes have a very particular theme and style and way they come together, and shotgunning all of them in this 11-minute video is pretty entertaining, even if you don't actually know what the show is about.
Ooh.
So what do you got for me?
All right, so here's an old issue of, I'm pretty sure it's the Village Voice, but it could be just Voice. But it's from like October 1986. And the article is Favorite Dinosaurs of the Mets, as in the New York Mets who play baseball. And I'm not sure if the author, Charlie Rubin, spelled exactly the same as my last name, but not related to me, actually went and interviewed the Mets to get these answers, or if this is a complete work of fiction, but it does not matter.
Nope, the mythos is all that matters.
He answered it in the character of the various players, so it's as if they answered the question.
Like Mookie Wilson, when I'm in a slump, I comfort myself by saying, if I believe in dinosaurs, then somewhere they must be real.
They must be believing in me.
They must be something. It was cut off in my screenshot.
And if they believe in me, then I can believe in me. Then I bust out.
Yep.
Right. So it's like he asked, each Met, real or fiction. I'm not sure if he actually asked them, but
these have to be fictional because they're Rafael Santana. I know 2 things. The best ball players in the world come from San Pedro de Macorís in the Dominican Republic, and the best Petrosaurus come from Kansas. Pterosaurs come from Kansas. Kansas is the San Pedro de Macorís of flying shit.
That's right. So here's an excellent article from olden days, and I think it makes you think and realize, like, every day we're consuming so much internets, right? I read so much internets every day, but I'm only reading things that are like brand new that day, like instantly. Even if something's 5 minutes old, it's too old. I'm not reading it, right? But there was already so much content created in the past. Most of it you could ignore. Like you don't need to read a newspaper article from about some local townie happening in the 80s or whatever, right? But a lot of things like this, have been in magazines and newspapers and all sorts of other print medias. Things that like aren't even like saved likely, like programs to various events and things. You know, there are school newspapers. You know, some things some kid made somewhere.
Well, you know what? So
And
like,
there's a ton of great content out there that's really inaccessible or is hidden in libraries. And unless someone takes a photo of it and puts it on internet, you're not gonna see it.
so when I was in middle school, because they were busing me over to the high school to take mostly high school classes. I didn't have enough actual classes in the middle school to take, so the school put me in this sort of like work program where I worked for the school's library. So for an hour and a half a day, I'd just sit in the library and I guess shelve books, but there wasn't enough work to do. So what I did is they had an archive, a physical archive of every issue of Popular Science and Popular Mechanics. I read all of them.
Every single
Everyone.
cover to cover.
Not cover to cover. Well, basically, I'd take each one out every day. I'd just take a pile of them, and I'd flip through each one, like look at every page and see if there's anything interesting. And I'd get through like 30 of them a day. And that's what I did in middle school.
That's a lot of time.
What else was I going to do? They wouldn't let me play my Game Boy.
Mm.
I wasn't allowed to do that. Modern, like, there's no smartphone. It's not like I could sit and look at the internet. What was I going to do? I looked at the physical internet. So in the meta moment, the book club book is Frank Herbert's Dune, and because I beat Ganon, I'm going to read it soon. I could just beat Ganon. You could probably just go kill Ganon right now.
I have to go. I haven't even gone to Goron Land.
Oh, you could kill Ganon right now. In fact, without going to Goron Land, it might be more fun.
Probably.
Goron Land is way easy and boring. I'm really, really sad that I did Goron Land last because it's the weakest of the four.
Mm.
Like, the plot is boring, the characters are boring, the beast is easy, and the quest to get to the beast is also really easy.
I didn't do any of the house buying stuff or
Yep.
the dragon scale getting.
I did 2 of the dragon scales, and I just didn't care anymore. I
I
just
only
didn't bother.
got 1. I got the other 2.
I was trying to farm the dragons to upgrade my champion shirt, because that's the only way to see actual hit points of enemies, but I just wore my like Zora suit, and it didn't matter. So, otherwise, you should check out my YouTube channel and Scott's YouTube channel. This episode of Geek Nights is live streaming right now on YouTube, and if you follow my YouTube channel, most episodes of Geek Nights just live stream, and there are 11 people watching it right now, and they're having a big old chat in there right now.
They should not do that. I'm sure they have something better to do.
Well, they're literally just chatting. There's like
look, while I haven't seen it and I can't personally recommend it, wouldn't you be better off going to watch that Westworld that Rim was just talking about than watching Geek Nights?
You are better off watching Westworld.
Wouldn't that be a better use of your time? Watching the old Yul Brynner Westworld is definitely a better use of your time than watching Geek Nights.
Though I will say,
especially live.
Don't let anyone spoil Westworld for you. Like, if you don't know what the deal is with Westworld, don't go look it up. Like the old Westworld. Just watch this. Watch this. It's
robot people.
It's funny because this wasn't planned because
cowboys.
We didn't know what we were doing the show on until like just when we started recording. But we're doing the show on amusement parks, and it just so happens that half of our topics ended up being about amusement parks.
We had to have done a show on amusement parks already.
I couldn't find one anyway.
This is like one of Rim's top 5 favorite things to talk about.
Yeah, it's like what else are we going to talk about? NTP, heuristics, the fixed protocol.
Sure. How have we not done a show on all of Rim's favorite things already?
I mean, you could search yourself, but I searched.
I'm sure we did shows on all of Scott's favorite things already.
Yep. But did we even do a show on the fixed protocol?
Don't worry about it.
We could do a show on the fixed protocol. You know what?
Not.
You're better off watching Westworld than listening to me talk about the fixed protocol.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're listening to Rim coughing. What a great use of your time.
Not too much yelling. All right. Yes, I'm talking about amusement parks. Amusement park, generic Wikipedia article. So I have a complicated relationship with amusement parks because on one hand, I grew up in a place where I could go to Cedar Point, which is literally the best roller coaster park in the world, bar none. Like, there is not even a question. It's not the best amusement park by any stretch, but it is definitely the best roller coaster park. But growing up like near that and like literally going to Cedar Point multiple times a summer, every summer, it was a big part of my childhood, and roller coasters actually were a big hobby of mine, like learning about them and like learning about how Cedar Point and amusement parks get run. But at the same time,
I don't see you playing a Roller Coaster Tycoon.
I did a lot, just not recently. But well, the problem with Roller Coaster Tycoon is that it's not accurate at all. Much like striking the same rib bone twice and yet making two entirely distinct sounds.
Why don't you make roller coaster like simulator that's accurate, like the farm simulator and such?
You know what? I wonder if that exists. Anyway, I will look that up. But amusement parks outside of Cedar Point always feel weirdly sad and cheap to me.
Well, I think it's just that when I was young, because like
Kid brain?
yeah, it's just kid brain, right? It's like even in, like when we were in San Antonio, right? We saw those like believe it or nots in haunted houses and shit across the street from the Alamo. And when I was a kid, I went to those things, and if I would pass by them, say in Niagara Falls or New Hampshire or any other kind of touristy place, Lake George, I'd be like, "Ooh, I want to go in there. That looks cool."
Oh, not only does it exist, it's called No Limits. It has a sequel. It also works with VR, and it's like Ultra Physics Engine, it looks like.
Sure.
All right.
But now when I see those with my adult eyeballs, I go, wow, those look really sad and run down and crappy.
Yep.
I do think, though, some aspect of that rundownness, I'm not 100% sure on this. I'd need like video or photo.
It was less run down when you were younger.
Yeah, is that I think, like, my memory is like in the 90s, it seemed like there was like some economic explosion where there was tons of money.
Well, case in point, malls
Right.
had animatronics.
You would go to malls, and like the Disney store would be like some crazy experience full of animatronic shit, and there'd be like a VR thing, and there'd be like a NASCAR simulator thing, and there'd be a laser tag in the mall.
Yep.
And then
The mall near my house had a water park inside of it.
Yeah.
And there were water slides that wound their way around the mall that had glass walls. You could see people
right,
going by.
things like BattleTech pods, right? But now, as time went on, those things weren't upgraded; they were run down, shuttered, destroyed, sold, disappeared.
Yep, the
Bye-bye.
animatronics got dirty and janky. They kept
They
them.
were not maintained.
So it's interesting because by going to the same amusement park year after year after year, and by not only was I a nerd about like Cedar Point and roller coasters, but my family was too. Like the coffee table book in our living room for a long time was this gigantic hardcover, like in-depth history of Cedar Point. Like we like that stuff. So like I knew a lot about the history, and the park was way more run down when I was younger, and then it got an infusion of money and was like way cleaned up and got way better. And then it got kind of crappy and run down again. And then they like super rebranded and got rid of all the Berenstain Bears stuff and replaced it with like ultra commercialized Snoopy nonsense.
I like Snoopy. I
Yeah.
like Snoopy a lot better than Berenstain Bears.
Yeah, but the Berenstain Bears thing was like this barely commercialized like science center. And
I thought Berenstain Bears was religious, or is that just something I'm remembering incorrectly?
I feel like it was adjacent to that, but I don't think it was directly that. I remember just being inoffensive and lame and really like gender rolly.
I was not a fan of Berenstain Bears when other kids were reading it in like first grade.
Yep. Well, because by first grade, you're already a little too old for the Berenstain Bears.
Not some of the kids in my class.
Yeah, some of the kids. I remember in my elementary school in 5th grade, they gave the 4 smart kids in class My Side of the Mountain to read. And they gave all the other kids in class the biography of Michael Jordan.
Oh, I read a biography of Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Just for fun.
Because they figured that the rest of the class
It was
would
funny,
not
though,
read.
because when I read a biography of Michael Jordan, he was still playing.
Yeah. But
He hadn't even played baseball yet at the time.
so amusement parks. So it's weird too because amusement parks are like fake by design. But at least for like nerds like us, it's almost more interesting to embrace the fakeness to me and like really try to look around the corners and look at the things you're not supposed to look at and like check out the back end and like see what's going on in that parking lot.
I was always doing that, but
Yeah.
You could still, right, the front sides of things were, pristine mostly, right? So like the amusement park I went to most when we were young was the one that they would take us to on trips, whether in the geographically situated, right, which is called Riverside.
Yeah.
It had this raccoon mascot. And then what happened as the years went on, eventually Riverside got bought by Six Flags, and it's now Six Flags New England. And when Six Flags New England bought it, they started adding and replacing, right? So there's like still like if I go there, I can still point out like, that's from Riverside. That there's like this area in the middle is still Riverside basically, even though hasn't been called that in forever. And everything else that's like out, is all brand new stuff.
Nah.
So that's where I went the most. But like also you'd be there with like summer camp, and you could like I think I went to Dorney once and Hershey.
You ever go to Lake Compounce?
Yeah, the ambulance. I went there once.
Because I just learned from Wikipedia that Lake Compounce is the oldest continuously operating amusement park in North America.
Yeah, Lake Compounce actually originally was sort of like this, just like lake with like bungalows. And
Well,
stuff.
so it's contemporary to Cedar Point. Cedar Point started the same way in the 1800s as like a lake resort on Lake Erie.
Yeah, it's just like a resort. Like rich people would go there and hang out and have a good time, and then eventually, slowly they added rides to it at some point, right? And that became a natural place to put that sort of thing, and then that became the bigger attraction than the original. It's like if you owned a roller skating rink and you put in a Pac-Man machine, and suddenly everyone's playing Pac-Man and no one's roller skating. Eventually, you get rid of the roller skating and just fill it up with arcade machines.
As a kid, I used to go to roller rinks a lot. There were a bunch of them in my town, and I'd go there.
There's only one in our town, and I think some years it like burned down multiple times, and now it's actually gone now for reals.
In fact, they used to run these all-night parties where you'd go there all night and just like rollerblade and hang out in the arcade mostly.
Yeah, we went. There were many birthday parties there.
Yep. But yeah, like all these old amusement parks, like eventually started like adding rides bit by bit and becoming like real places. And Disney is probably the first like modern amusement park, I want to say.
Well, Disney's a theme park, right? It's
Yeah.
not really.
Well, true. There's a theme other than just there are amusements
right.
here.
There's like a few different tiers, right? The first tier is the portable one that like comes to your town.
Carnies.
The Carney one, right?
As a kid, we'd whenever the Carnies were in town, I always wanted to go over there. My parents were like, "No."
They're in a store. Oh, they were in Astoria like last week.
Yep. My parents were
they're still there.
yeah, that's a kid brain. There's rides. I want to ride them. I don't give a fuck about how safe they are. And
those rides are safe.
nah,
The tiny ones.
nah, they're not that safe.
Yeah, you're good.
I saw someone get seriously injured on one when I was a kid.
Sure.
And I was on one that broke down, and other people got hurt. I was actually okay, but I saw one. The chain that like drove the spinner snapped and flew out into the crowd.
Woo!
It didn't hit anyone, but it hit a tree and like embedded inside of it.
Yeah, nice.
Like that would have killed whoever it hit.
That'll be on YouTube today.
Yeah. The funny thing is, if you were on that ride, it would have been safer.
Yeah.
I rode one once. We went to like a Michigan State Fair. And the Carnies set up these rides, and there's this one ride that was manually controlled.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't just like hit a button to start, hit a button to stop. The guy was like moving this throttle constantly and like looking at gauges.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents started talking to the Carney, and he was like, yeah, this thing's actually illegal in most of the country because it's super fucking dangerous. And like, I could really hurt people if I mess up. And it spun so fast I couldn't breathe. So
nice.
Yeah, like literally it starts spinning, and my brother and I are like, faster, faster. And the guy's like he gives us his thumb up, and then it's a spinner, and then around it are sub spinners, and the cars are on the end of those sub spinners. So if the sub spinner was spinning in the same direction as the main spinner, you literally could not breathe. And I never rode that thing again.
So the next tier up is sort of like the established in one place amusement park, but not a big one, right? So in Connecticut, there's like Quasi is the one we went to. There's also one in New Hampshire that was like, it was sort of like an old timey town. I forget what it was called, but it had like like one of those houses where you sit in it and the room turns around you, and a train ride. It's just like it didn't even have one roller coaster, but it's like an established place with some rides, but it doesn't. It's not really large.
Yep.
Right?
And then the full-on theme parks, the ones like people from all over the world, or at least all over the region, will go to.
Well,
like Disney.
There's even stuff in between that though, right? It's like the Six Flags, like Six Flags kind of places are in between the small places and the
True, because they'll have like a few roller coasters and like a bunch of basic thrill rides.
Right, and there's even with the Six Flags level of thing, there's almost sort of like two levels of that, right? There's some Six Flags that are like tiny, and there's some that are like the mega.
No,
like, we're this crazy Six Flags, and we're sort of like, yeah, we're just a Six Flags. We're like one of the crappy ones.
So as a kid, it was weird because I would like my family, we were talking about fast, like we're fast movers when it comes to travel. Like we see the whole Alamo, and like we've seen everything. We were like that at amusement parks. Anywhere we went, we'd like study the map in advance and like, we're going to ride this ride first and we're going to like, bam, 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 bam. You're going to eat in line and not waste time. Be there when the park opens. You leave after the park closes. Like we were puff, 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 go, go, go 100%. Even when I was a little kid.
Yeah, I mean, the difference is like, I think probably me was willing to ride more rides than anyone else in the family.
Nah.
Like,
See, my whole family was like down with the roller coaster.
Yeah.
DTRC.
So, yeah, and it wasn't like we were gonna like split up in some crazy crowded place when we were all childrens.
Yep.
Right. So it's like we just sort of, we weren't slow. We're definitely faster than some others, but we were not the fastest, right? And depending on the place, how long lines were or whatever, but I never felt like we missed out on, like, there was never a time where there was something I wanted to go on that we didn't go on.
Nah.
It's like
Cedar Point was just so big and had so many coasters that you regularly would not ride. Like, you could not ride every ride there in one day.
Yeah.
There's literally no way.
The other good times, though, were, like, when we went with, like, summer camp or something, you just sort of, like, be on your own or with, like, a couple camp friends.
Those are those early forays into independence.
Or you'd go with school and you'd just be, like, with a couple of your school friends, and then you would just run around and ride everything.
That was so. My high school, the physics classes would always do like physics day, where like you all go to Cedar Point and you have to do some experiments on the rides that you kind of just fake.
We didn't do any of that. We just said we're going to the amusement park. There was no justification other than school trip. Let's go.
So when the day I turned 16 was in January, so like I got a car and I could drive, and that was crazy. And that summer, when I was 16, I had this revelation. Like I was in school one day. It was like near early June, like school's gonna be out soon, and I just suddenly realized, wait a minute, I could just drive my car to Cedar Point. I could just go there. Who's gonna stop me? I can do whatever the hell I want. I have a car. So the next day, me and a bunch of friends just skipped school and just went to Cedar Point, and that was great. And that was like being alone in amusement parks as a kid without your slow parents slowing you down was one of the highlights of my childhood.
But now I haven't been to one in a long time.
But I'm feeling that itch, like real strong.
I mean, like.
But I'm not feeling the amusement park itch. Like I don't want to go see shows in an amusement park. I don't even want to go to the arcade in an amusement park. I just want to ride a roller coaster. I'm feeling the roller coaster itch, independent of any theme parking.
That is true, right? Because like in those days, right, in the 90s or whatever, right, we didn't have no YouTube. So like the show at an amusement park was like, whoa, holy crap. Now it's like you can see those things on the internet and they're not that exciting. The arcades at amusement park, it used to be you'd go there and there'd be like some games there. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Even at the time we were in college, like early 2000s, you go to an amusement park and they had DDR and it's like, oh my God, DDR machine, yes.
The Cedar Point was the first place I ever saw a physical DDR machine in person.
It was always upsetting that the arcades at amusement parks cost like 4 times as much as the ones in your town.
Yep.
But they always had, like, for some reason, the newest, bestest, fanciest games there, right?
Oh, I don't know if it's still there. Cedar Point, at least when I was a kid, had a bunch of modern arcades, but they had one giant arcade, like super giant.
So other than Fun Spot, which is just mostly an arcade, the place that I went with the second biggest arcade was actually, of all places, Sesame Place in Pennsylvania. I don't know if it's still there. I mean, Sesame Place is still there, but I don't know. At least I think it is. But I don't know if the arcade is still there. The arcade at Sesame Place was like 2 stories tall, as I remember it, right? And in one part, they had all these custom Sesame Place computers.
Whoa.
They were like Apple IIs with simpler keyboard kind of things going on. I can't remember. Maybe you search a Sesame Place computer, you'll see one.
I think it's gone. Okay, anyway.
And it had these, like, Sesame Street games on them, and you could choose from among the games. They were all like kid games, right? Because it's Sesame Place. But those games were not available like anywhere else ever. It was like the only place you could play those ABC games was at those computers at Sesame Place. But that wasn't the whole arcade. The rest of the arcade was a 2-story big ass room, regular old arcade.
Yep.
And I played like Simpsons arcade game there. And
the
Ninja
Cedar Point one,
and,
the biggest one, was obviously not retro on purpose to like make money for being retro. It was just they put all the old shitty games in like this one giant arcade. But that giant arcade was nothing but like a retro arcade museum effectively. And the games in there were only a quarter. Well, a token. They didn't take quarters. And the arcade games in the normal arcades cost normal money. Like put $1 in there to play your Simpsons or whatever.
Sesame Place still exists. Let's see if the Sesame Place arcade still exists.
because it looks like a lot of the games that were in the retro arcade at Cedar Point are not there anymore, based on some tentative interneting. But as an adult, if I want to play retro arcade games, I can just go to MagFest. So if I go back to Cedar Point, which I'm really thinking about doing this summer, I think I'm just going to ride roller coasters and literally do nothing else in that park. And I think part of why I got amusement park out of my system, like independent of roller coaster, was that I was just recently in Disney for the first time as an adult. And I think I amusement parked out in the course of that trip. I'm just killing time while you look up your thing. Have you looked it up yet? Do I have to keep killing time?
I don't know if they still have an arcade there. It's not clear from their website. I want to find a picture of those old computers, though.
So
how cool would it be to get one of those computers?
Yeah. So in terms of, that's the kind of thing you bring to MagFest.
Oh, yeah, right?
Yeah. We got to get on that. See if we can find someone who will like bring it to MagFest and make a big deal.
I found a picture of it.
So in terms of amusement parks, like as a kid, what were your favorite rides? And has that changed as an adult?
Has it changed? Oh, I haven't ridden rides in a long time.
I think the last ride we rode was both of us. Remember when I had Lyme disease and Wildwood, and we both paid the like $14 to ride that one roller coaster?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a favorite kind of ride, maybe.
Like what kinds of ride? Like forget roller coasters. How about just thrill rides?
I mean, yeah, so I'm saying is like this. It's pretty much just good ride or bad ride, right? It's like, you know, it's like if there's a roller coaster that's all shaky and makes you sick, it's no good. But if there's a roller coaster that's like, woo, then it's good. It's like.
But when you don't care, like inversions or like partial inversions or hanging or.
I mean, there's good inversions and bad inversions.
Nope.
There's hanging ones that are good and bad, and it's like.
There was
it's like
definitely an
there's
advancement.
No particular category that's like better or worse, right?
I guess because I was a nerd about this. I think about it in terms like there are sort of legit industry categories for all those different kinds of thrill rides, so I can categorize them much more easily. But that technology definitely changed. Like when I was a kid, there was this inversion ride. There was just a wheel, like a Ferris wheel that started sideways, and then it would slowly rise to be vertical. So you're just going upside down, upside down, upside down, upside down. And it would make some people real sick. It's called the Witch's Wheel.
That's a good ride.
But that was like at that era.
It's similar to the Roundup.
Yeah. But in that era, that was like the height of like full inversion thrill ride. But I remember just as I was getting ready to go to college, like a few years before that when I was in high school, Cedar Point, they kept the Witch's Wheel. That was like a retro ride. And they added this other ride called Chaos. It moved in so many axes that you could like it was insane how disorienting that ride was. And you could see like this moment where thrill ride like design and technology started to, I guess, use data or get more advanced, or maybe material science like allowed them to do crazier things. But I kind of only liked thrill rides as a kid because you literally could not just ride roller coasters all day, or you might get sick or get a headache and the lines were long. So thrill rides were just like mini, not roller coasters you'd ride between roller coasters. Like I would never ride a thrill ride unless I was on my way to ride a real roller coaster. And in terms of roller coasters, I pretty much primarily like the mega coasters, like the out and back, like super giant hills, super fast, big drop. Like that was my favorite, bar none. Like the Magnum or the Millennium Force.
And I was just happy to be riding a ride, right? It's like, you're going woo pretty much no matter what ride it is. It's better than not riding a ride, wait in line.
Has there ever been a ride that like messed you up or you didn't go woo, like it was bad news?
When I was super small, right? So again, Sesame Place. There's a water ride there. It's actually called the Count's Car Wash, and the Count is my guy.
I know the Count's your guy.
Other than Cookie Monster, right? And the Count's Car Wash is basically sort of like, I'm sure you could find pictures of it. It's basically like, tubes you crawl around in, like, mesh net tubes.
Oh, they had one of those on the roof of the ball pit building when I was a kid at Cedar Point.
And it sprays water on you all the time, right? But, the second time I went to Sesame Place, I had this memory of the first time I went there. And the memory I had of the first time I went there was not, when I looked at it, I saw like you're just being sprayed with water everywhere, right? It wasn't like any big deal. But my memory was that it was basically cylinders and tubes and, pieces that were 100% filled with water. And like I had this obviously fake memory of like, basically being trapped in these tubes,
Yeah.
completely submerged.
I had all these memories. I meant because we had a similar
I was inside a clear but filled in submarine trying to swim out.
I had all
so
these.
I was not, I had a severe negative memory associated with the Count's car wash. Even though now when I look at it, it's like, oh, whatever.
I had all these weird fake
I
memories
guess
too.
I went on it when I was too young, so it created a false thing.
Because there was like the giant tube thing. It wasn't watery. It was just like on the roof of this building. But it was this giant. As far as I remembered as a kid, it was a structure so large and so complex that I was pretty sure there were kids who just lived inside of it and like had never found their way out. And when I saw it as a teenager, I went up there and looked at it. I was taller than it. And yet I remember it towering above me to the point that I never thought I'd see the top of it. Perspective of how high your eye line is actually changes those situations a lot. But the only ride that ever messed me up, I think, was Cedar Point added, because they started doing like different kinds of coasters, and they made a new kind of coaster one year called the Mantis. It was a standing coaster. You stand on a platform, and there's a harness that comes over your shoulders, but you stand and vertically, and the ride goes. And there's a little platform that kind of comes up, like almost like a bicycle seat. You're not supposed to sit on it, but it is there to keep you from falling down out of the roller coaster. So I waited in line for like 3 hours to ride the thing because it was a new ride and everyone was lined up for it. And I finally get on it, and I go, and the bicycle seat thing stayed a little too high and crushed my balls, and I spent the entire ride desperately trying to not get my balls completely crushed at the bottom of every hill, and it was a nightmare. It's very telling that they since got rid of that roller coaster and they rebuilt it to be a different format of coaster. It's no longer a standing coaster.
So I can't find a picture of the Count's car wash. It's apparently been replaced with the Count's Splash Castle. And looking at a picture of the Splash Castle, wow, that thing is actually fucking awesome looking.
Oh yeah, they renamed it the Rougarou, and it's floorless instead of floor that literally tries to crush Rim's balls.
Okay.
So good job. I think that was the only bad roller coaster I ever rode, other than, when I was a kid.
There was at Quasi. There was we rode this tiny, tiny roller coaster where there's only two people in the car, like a little cat and mouse dealie, and it's one of those ones, goes up. And then it sort of makes all these sharp turns. You're going perfectly straight, there isn't any elevation changing, and it'll make a 90-degree turn, a 90-degree turn, and a 180-degree turn. It's just and it's wooden and crappy and click, 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 and it's really uncomfortable. And then it'll go down a little bit, and it's and it's just sort of someone beating the shit out of you, right? Shaking your body around in random directions.
That's what it was like for me with the old, because I like old wooden coasters for history and aesthetics. But actually riding one of those things is just a guaranteed migraine headache for the rest of the day.
There are good wooden ones and bad wooden ones, right?
Most of the ones you think of as good wooden ones are technically steel.
Possibly.
If
right?
they're smooth, if the tracks are round steel tubes, it doesn't matter if the whole thing's made out of wood. That is a steel coaster.
No, the tracks they're
flat slats of metal.
Yeah, the rails, right? So at Busch Gardens, there's one where it's it's wooden, and there's two roller coasters that sort of go at the same time, a red one and a blue one.
There's one of those in Cedar Point called Gemini, but it's a steel coaster.
Right, but it's like a lion tiger deal or something, because Busch Gardens has an animal theme for everything, right? But it's definitely, they're on rails, but it was, at the time I went on it, it was modern and smooth and kind of nice to ride. It wasn't what's the one that was at Riverside? It was Thunderbolt or something, and that thing was shaky as fuck. It was it was a normal-ish looking roller coaster. You go up, you go down a hill, you make a turn, you come back, you go down another hill, right? But the whole time, it was someone was shaking you like the vibration machine.
So the Mean Streak was the longest, fastest wood-style roller coaster in the world when they built it. So it was a super, super long ride, and it was pretty fun, and it was but it was a wooden coaster. After a few years, wooden coasters tend to degrade in quality rapidly, and it got so shaky that I would literally get a splitting headache if I rode it. I'd still ride it almost every year anyway. I don't know why. I just felt like I had to, but I would not ride a traditional wooden coaster again unless there was some particular historic reason to. So, do you think you'll go to a amusement park again at some point?
I'm sure sometime before I die, hopefully.
You want to go with me to Cedar Point this summer?
No, I would like to go, but the problem is it's just not worth it considering how much of a pain in the ass it is to go there.
That's why my plan is to fly there, do like 2 or 3 days of like get all the roller coaster out of my system, and then go back to my normal life.
It's still too much of a pain in the ass to go there.
Kind of like how I just did for Disney. I went to Disney, got all the Disney out of my system, and now I can wait a decade. I'll go back to Disney when like the new Star Wars land is fully complete.
So whatever roller coaster it is that we rode at Busch Gardens that was wooden is not on their website anymore.
Yeah.
I don't understand that, right? People tearing down, like, you run an amusement park, right? People are going to, like, they're always trying to get, like, the biggest, craziest ride or whatever, but, like,
Yep.
why are you, like, smashing rides? It's
Cedar
like,
Point used to not, like, there was a point where they stopped tearing down roller coasters because they figured why not just keep adding them and always have the world record of having the most roller coasters. But then they started destroying ones that didn't get ridden anymore, that maintenance cost more than, like, the value.
Right, but I'm saying it's like you only care that people come to the park. You don't really care how much they ride when they come there. You just want them to come and stay, right? So they're going to come pretty much no matter what rides you fucking have.
No, because
Are you really gonna get like more? If you pay zillions of dollars for another roller coaster, is that really gonna bring in enough people to like pay for it and make you more money than if you just went with the rides you got already?
I think so. Disney doesn't need to. Like, I don't think Disney could probably get away with never fucking changing anything forever because it's such a cultural icon.
But they change things constantly.
Yeah, but they also keep a lot of old stuff there.
Not as much.
And what's something new in the Magic Kingdom in the last decade?
I haven't been there, so I don't know. But I can tell you old stuff they got rid of.
Yeah, but most of the old stuff, especially the rides, are just still there, and they're mostly the same. But so like Cedar Point, because it was like, if a place has repeat traffic as opposed to occasional traffic, like regionally, like people who go there every year, they always have to have a piece of news to advertise to remind people, hey, there's new shit here, come back. So, like, there would be ads on TV, like, as a kid, right around, like, April, like, May, as they get toward the end of the school year, ads would be on primetime TV advertising the new roller coaster at Cedar Point.
We had those all kinds of ads like that, advertising the new roller coaster.
And people would come to the park who wouldn't otherwise go and line up for 4 hours to ride the new coaster.
But you could have just had an advertisement just say, hey, we got a crazy amusement park. Holy shit. You don't need, advertising the specific roller coaster. How much did that really help?
Well, I guess it depends on, are you getting, is your business?
What if you had spent the money building the roller coaster on just more advertising instead, right? Or just, you already bought the advertising. Don't build the roller coaster. You're going to get the same number of visitors advertising the roller coaster you've already got.
I feel like that philosophy you're talking about is how most amusement parks are run. Because they don't change that often. I feel like the ones that do something different have some other business model around like, having a region where you're trying to make sure that you have regulars who come every year forever, like get people hooked.
Like I can understand if you
like Disney has regulars, like we know some people.
I can understand having the biggest or the most or changing significantly can help you if you're pulling international traffic, right? Because or long distance traffic, like Disney World. You go to Disney World, all right, and it's like, okay, you got this family, they come good, right? We want them to go to Disney World on vacation more years, right? Every year if possible, if they're from far away. But are they going to come back to Disney World if it's the same exact thing as last year if they're not Disney nuts? Probably not. And that's why you would update, because you got to pull someone from far away and give them a reason to make it worth coming because there's something crazy new. But if it's just, hey, you're in town, come here and have a good time. Well, you're going to have a good time with the rides they already got. It doesn't need to be a new ride every time for you to have a reason.
But I wouldn't go back. Like most amusement parks I've ever visited in my life, I rode every ride. And there's literally no reason for me to ever go back to them ever. Disney, there's only a reason for me to go back when, they do a full refresh and there's new Star Wars shit to see.
I feel like there's still a reason to go. The ride is fun more than a few times, especially if you haven't ridden it in years.
But there isn't enough
density. It's like new again.
Yeah, I guess it's partly I just got ruined by Cedar Point. Like, the crappiest roller coasters there are better than some of the best roller coasters at most places. So I just I went to Canada Wonderland once, and I rode every coaster, and they were all bullshit. And I was like, well, never coming back here. Even though those roller coasters were fine by like a Six Flags standard. I don't know. I was an amusement park hobbyist primarily around roller coasters as a kid. And the only reason I didn't keep that up as a hobby is that it's not a very active hobby. It's not like I can build roller coasters.
Yeah, you can. People build them in their backyard all the time.
Yeah, I live in New York where I can build it in my living room, I guess.
You don't have to live in New York.
Yeah, I do. Though something that's kind of, I've always been, even as a kid, like I remember being really disgusted, like actually disgusted by most of the other people who were at the amusement parks that weren't me and my friends. Because as a kid, I remember a lot of the people in the park weren't there to ride roller coasters and were incapable of moving quickly and were often in my way on scooters.
When someone is touristing and going to amusement park, that is like when they are at their worst.
Yep, like they're
basically.
already slow because you're all slow. Most people are slow.
Right,
But now they're going slow on purpose, but they're going slow relative to their already slow
people
lives.
are waiting in lines in the heat, bothered by kids, wasting money on expensive food.
Yep, eating way too much of that terrible food, drinking gallons of soda.
Carrying around a bunch of heavy crap.
That they don't need.
Right, it's like, that's the kind of things people are doing when they're, touristing an amusement park. And if you're just, trying to efficiently ride rides, those vast majority of people are going to be in your way.
Yep. And I remember people getting particularly testy in lines.
Mm-hmm. It's hot out.
Yeah. And none of them would talk.
You're standing around doing nothing.
I remember standing in a line to ride a new roller coaster at Cedar Point with a bunch of high school friends. We were in line for a little over 3 hours, which we didn't care because we can go anytime we want. It's a couple-hour drive. But no one in the line was talking. They were just standing there in the heat being surly. And we were talking and being loud, and we were the only people. So it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, well, probably thousands of people silent and us being loud. And I remember this one mother was just like staring at us and staring at us. And then eventually she just yells, "Shut up!" And everyone got silent. And then we just kept being loud again because what's she going to do? And that story doesn't go anywhere. It's not like she could get through the turnstile to get to us. It's not like there's a rule against talking. It really hit stark, though, like it really bothered me recently when we were at Disney World because I feel like a full third of the people there had lived such sedentary lives that they could not walk the distances required to even experience Epcot, and were using mobility scooters, even though in their normal lives they are mobile and walk. I think literally 1 in 3 people in that park were in mobility scooters.
A lot of people don't walk in their daily lives. They sit in a house. They take a car to go anywhere.
They wait in the parking lot for the closest parking spot to minimize walking.
Right. People don't walk very much at all if they live a suburban lifestyle, and suburban kind of people are the kind of people who go to amusement park.
Yep.
And amusement park requires lots of walking. If you want to get from here to there.
Yep.
Even if there's monorails and little cars and tram cars and things like that, you still got to walk a whole bunch. There's nothing you can do about it.
Indiscriminate Thursday. Well, we'll see. I'm probably going to Cedar Point this summer. Chase wants to go, so it might be like me, Emily Chase. You sure you don't want to come?
It's too much of a pain in the ass.
How's it going to be? One weekend. You take one day off work.
It's in a weird-ass place.
You can fly.
If it was a convenient place to go to, right, near a major city where you could fly there direct, or if it was cheap, but it's
a couple hours from Detroit. You can fly there direct.
So you got to fly Detroit, and then you got to get 2 hours away from Detroit?
Yeah.
How do you do that? It's not like a train.
You just rent a car.
Renting a car. Okay, great.
Renting cars outside of New York. Like in New York, like it's $100+ a day to rent a car. But like outside of New York, I've rented cars for like $8 a day.
I'm just saying it's not a convenient trip where it's just nice and easy, right?
Flights to Sandusky, Ohio, $87.
I'm just saying we could.
It's a weird. What are you gonna do in a weekend?
Enjoy New York, a much better place.
But I'm in New York every day. I enjoy it every weekend.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
So I can go enjoy a different place pretty easily. 2 cheap flights.
I'm good.
Stay in the Hotel Breakers, a fancy old hotel.
No.
Ride some of the best roller coasters in the world.
I'm good.
Yeah, you stay, you're good. I remember we were both, when we were in Wildwood, we paid that $14 each, which felt like way too much money.
It was.
To ride that roller coaster once, and it's a tiny, crappy roller coaster. We were both pretty cynical and down on it, and then while we rode it, we were both hands in the air. Woo!
Yeah, a roller coaster is fun, but it's not not so fun and so amazing that I'm going to fly somewhere and my weekend just to ride
I'm willing to pay one weekend and a few $100s to ride like 50 roller coasters that are all at least 4 times better than that roller coaster.
I think I'm good.
It's a density of experience is what I want. It's like you go to Disney and you like cram
With a
in all your
weekend-
amusement
with
parking.
a weekend and a few $100s, I can do better. Just go to the beach.
Well, I can go to Sandy Hook anytime I want, though. So I go to a lot of beaches
I could
now.
go to like a tropical beach.
You want to go to a tropical beach?
Yeah,
All right, you want to go? Let's go. We could go to.
it's real easy to go to a tropical beach.
It'll be about the same level of hassle.
No, because we can get a plane directly to the tropical beach with no car renting at the other end. And
Car
there'll
renting
be-
is not a
there'll
hassle.
be a hotel immediately touching that beach.
The hotel that I stay at Cedar Point is in Cedar Point.
I'm just saying.
It's like going to Disney. You stay like in.
It'll be a beautiful private beach belonging to the hotel. The water will be
You know, actually,
magnificent.
Cedar Point has beaches on Lake Erie.
Yeah, that's not tropical.
No, but it's warm enough to be tropical because that beach is mad shallow and mad polluted. All right, I think we're done here.
We were done a long time ago.
That was an okay show. Pretty sure we've done that. Well, find me evidence. Let me do the Patreon thing. I'm gonna get some food. All right. Current patrons. And the Patreon patrons for this episode of Geek Nights are Nicholas Brando, Alan Joyce, Heidi McNichol, Amanda Duchette, and Thomas Hahn. MyStadia.com, William Eisenrose, Jeremy Miner. These aren't the droids you were looking for. A genuine, bona fide, electrified 6-car monorail. Rebecca Dunn, The Terrible Secret of Space, 421 Creations. No, you sure? Yeah. Shervin Von Horrell, Rare Lavelle, James David White, Rochelle Montanona, Superboy. I paid $5 to make Rim say Pickle. Sailor Vista, Matthew Smith, Don Schleich, Kajar Tavish, and Joe Shiro, Joe Star, Sean Yeager, Sam Cordery, Clinton Walton, Ren from New Zealand, Ryan Perrin, USA, AOK, Brian Cedrone, someone who finally delivered their master's thesis, Chris Midkiff, Chris Knox, Daniel Redmond, Sean Klein, Chris Reimer, who fucking declared war on me in that Civ game, and I'm gonna tell you, son, hell is coming for you, and Thomas Hahn. So yeah, in the big Civ game I've been playing for a while, literally the entire world has declared war on me, including Egypt with its tiny army. I'm coming. I got artillery. None of you fools have artillery. I'm coming. And now I leave you with a stopped stream.